What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the show. So today we're going to talk about Social Security, and we're going to ask ChatGPT, how can we make adjustments to Social Security so we can prolong the program out for longer than this 2034 or 2033 deadline that we're looking at when it comes to the trust funds? So we want to extend the trust funds out further. How can we adjust Social Security in order to do that? So that's what I want to focus on in this video. But first off, you guys can do me a favor. Please like the video. If you're watching this video and you want to see more content like this, please consider subscribing to the channel. Okay, so let's get right to this. Now we're making adjustments. Before I did another video and I was talking about increases, so how to bring in more revenue for the program. These are adjustments. So you're not necessarily bringing in more revenue. You're making some changes to the current way things are being done. And so the first thing here is changing the COLA formula. Okay, switch from the CPIW to chained CPI for calculating cost of living adjustment. And it says chained CPI accounts for consumer substitutions resulting in slower COLA growth. This is important. Slower COLA growth. This might not be what everybody wants, right? And I'll talk a little bit about it in a second. Estimated to reduce long-term program costs by 0.5% of GDP. Okay, so what is going on here? So they would change the CPIW, and they're not changing it from the CPIW to the CPIE. I've talked about that before. So the CPI for wage earners and clerical staff, that's what they use right now. They're not changing it to the CPIE for the elderly, which would mean you would receive a little bit more in your COLA increase. They're not talking about that. They're actually talking about slowing it down so you would receive less. And if you're receiving less in Social Security benefits, then that means the trust funds can prolong the trust funds a little bit further. Now, you might not have heard of this before, but you have heard some politicians talking about we need to change CPI. They've been talking about this. And you have two sides. You have one group that's talking about changing it from the CPIW to the CPIE, like I was saying. Then you have another group that's talking about either doing away with COLA, so no longer have any type of a COLA increase, or changing it to this method where you're slowing down COLA so people aren't going to receive as much in COLA. I have my current retirement plan. I have a pension that I'm receiving. They cap it. They cap it at 3%. And so back a couple of years ago, when you saw those large increases, the 5.7s, the 8%, when you were seeing those, mine was capped at 3%. It wouldn't go over 3%. But what they do is it won't go over 3%, but they will bank it. So if inflation is really high, I'm not going to get more than 3% this year, but on a slower, like let's say inflation drops down and it drops down below 3%, I'm still going to get 3%. And so they kind of balance it out over the years. That way they don't have to pay it all out in 1 year. So if it goes up to 8.7%, then now they have to pay a lot more. They want to spread it out. And so that's the way my pension works. So now let's look. I want to take a look at this, and this is important. How long is this going to be extended out to? So it's between 2040 and 2045. So it's not that much time. We're looking at maybe about, let's just average it out to maybe about 10 years, 10 more years than what you would get in the current situation that we're in. Okay, let's look at another adjustment. So this adjustment here says raise the retirement age. How many times have we heard a politician say, we should just raise the full retirement age? And they say raise it to, I don't know, from 67 to 69 or 70. So let's take a look at this example. It says gradually increase the full retirement age from 67 to 68 over a period of years. And then they're saying this reflects a longer life expectancy and reduces the number of benefit years, saving around 13% of the funding shortfall. Now, remember this, 13%. Anytime you hear a politician say, well, we should just raise a full retirement age, that's how we can reform Social Security, then you should tell them, okay, what else are you going to do? Because that's only going to be about 13% of where we need to be in order to reform Social Security. It will push us off, and let's see, it's going to extend it out between 2045 and 2050. But like all of these different reforms, you're going to have to add more to it. And so what you don't want is you don't want them to say, okay, we're going to raise a full retirement age, and you think that, okay, that is going to satisfy that's going to satisfy the trust funds. It will extend the trust funds out so we don't have to worry about it anymore. because they'll say, okay, yeah, that's what we'll do. They raise the full retirement age and say, oh, you know what? Sorry, we made a mistake. We need to do a little bit more because we need more revenue coming in, and we can't just cut our way. We can't just make adjustments to our current system. We're going to have to bring in more revenue. And so then they'll tax you anyway. So they'll tax you and they'll raise the full retirement age. So that's what we don't want. So I would much rather, and I talked about this in a previous video, I would much rather politicians look us in the eye and say, look, we need to raise the payroll contribution across the board for everyone working. Just do that, and then explain to people the reason why it needs to happen, because the trust funds are being depleted. I'd rather them do that than talk about raising the full retirement age, because if you raise that full retirement age, even if it's only 2 years, that could mean that you're not going to be able to retire until 69. And that's a big deal for some people. I think most people, when you get to that age, you're thinking, if it's 67, I want to be able to retire at 67. I don't want to have to wait until 69 in order to retire, or 70. Okay, let's look at the next adjustment. So means test benefits. This is something that we also heard a lot about. Okay, I remember Chris Christie, when he was running for president, he talked a lot about this. We need to means test Social Security, means test Social Security. And so what exactly does that mean? So it says reduce or phase out benefits for retirees with high lifetime earnings and substantial retirement income. This ensures better targeted benefits and could close up to 15% of the shortfall depending on the income threshold. So people who receive more in Social Security benefits and people who are more, they have retirement plans and all this stuff, so they have money to be comfortable, they would means test them and basically cut them out of some of the money that they would be receiving from Social Security, and then take that money and help out the people who are at or below the poverty line. That's how that could work. Okay. Now, and I say could work because they could also just say, we're not even going to help out the people that are at or below the poverty line. We're just going to means test it, cut those people off that are high earners. So cut those people off, and then take that money and recycle it back into the trust funds, and it'll extend the trust funds out a little bit further. Okay, now let's look at what time period that would be. So the time frame here is between 2045 and 2050. And so you would gain about 10 more years past the deadline date that we're looking at now of 2034 or 2033. Okay, so let's look at this option. And this is another option that I talked about, increase immigration. Now, what are we hearing about right now? What are we hearing? What are we seeing? We're seeing immigration. We're seeing a lot of deportations. You're taking these people from their jobs, from where they were working, and some of them are undocumented, but not all of them. Some of them, they were legally working in the U.S. because they were on special status, and they've been eliminating the special status, so now they're not legally able to work. And so now you're taking those people, you're deporting them, or even if you haven't deported them yet, if you change their status to where they were legally here, but now they're not legally here, so they're undocumented, now they can't work, and because they can't work, they can't contribute to FICA. And so taking that money out, you're taking a lot of, we will see, and I guarantee you, the actuary will probably come out later this year, and they're going to say, you know what, the trust funds are depleting even faster than we thought. Why? Because we have less money coming in through FICA as a result of immigration, as a result of all this stuff that's going on right now. Okay, so let's see what they're saying here. So it says, allow more working age immigrants to enter the U.S., okay? And this is opposite of what we've been seeing or hearing about, right? So it says, allow more immigrants to come in, and we're talking about have them legally come in and work. Okay. These individuals would pay into Social Security for decades, improving the worker beneficiary ratio and enhancing long-term solvency. So this would actually be good. So, and I've said this before, when it comes to immigration, as long as it's done the right way, immigration will benefit people receiving Social Security, will benefit the program. Because another thing that we need to talk about is the birth rate. Our birth rates are down. And so in 20 years from now, we're going to be even in a worse situation because we're not going to have as many people in the workforce because of our birth rates. So what's a good way to have more people working and more people paying into Social Security and more people paying into our economy and helping our economy? Have immigrants come over. They want to work, have them come over and work, pay into FICA, pay into other, other areas, other taxes and things like that. And a lot of immigrants, they're not even able to receive Social Security because some of them, they might come over here, they might stay here for 5 to 7 years and then go home. They don't have the credits in order to earn Social Security benefits. And so, or they might not stay the whole time. Now, you could still receive Social Security benefits if you're in another country. So that's something they can do as long as they get the 10 years that's required. But they have to be, and let me say this, they have to be documented here. Okay, so they have to have a temporary Social Security number where they can work and earn and pay into the payroll contribution just like everybody else. And then they have to meet the other qualifications, be age 62 or older, and all of that. So this is something that could really help. Now, I want to show you this. Look at how long this would extend the Social Security. It would extend it from between 2050 and 2060. And so when we're talking about immigration, this could be huge for Social Security. This could really, really help Social Security. And it brings down that ratio that they were talking about from worker to beneficiary. We want to bring that worker ratio up because right now I think it's like 2.5 to 1 or 2 to 1, something. For every 2 workers, you have 1 person receiving benefits. We want to have 3 or 4. For every 3 or 4 workers, you have 1 person receiving benefits. And that will help out the trust fund. Okay, next one here, it says improving tax collection. Okay, so and what have we also been hearing about? They want to lay off more people from the IRS and do it. I mean, you've had some politicians out there, and the current administration is talking about we should do away with IRS. We shouldn't even have IRS at all. But what they're saying here is they want to improve enforcement and reporting of payroll taxes for gig workers, freelancers, and small businesses. As the labor market shifts, modernizing tax collection could yield modest but growing improvements in revenue. This would extend it out between 2040 and 2045. Now, we have heard of no tax on tips, no tax on overtime. Now, they put caps on those. Okay, so if you go over the cap, you're still going to have to pay taxes on those. And remember, they're tax deductions that they're talking about here. But in this bill, you still have to contribute to FICA. So you're still going to be paying taxes, but it will be to FICA when it comes to no tax on tips and no tax on overtime. So just be aware of that. You're thinking, oh, I'm not going to have to pay taxes on this. No, you're still going to pay taxes when it comes to FICA. And so these are some good options when it comes to reforming Social Security, okay? And these are adjustments. These are not bringing in more revenue, but making some adjustments to what we already have. And so I want to know what you guys think about this. So let me know in the comments below, which one do you like the best? Let me know that in the comments below. 1 through 5, there's 5 there, so 1 through 5, just let me know the number. If you guys like this video, please give me a thumbs up. Please subscribe for more, and I'll talk to you in the next one. Bye. So that's all we have for this video. Make sure if you guys want to send me an email, you can do that, david@thetecshow.com. Like the video, subscribe for more, and check out these videos over here for some more great content. Talk to you later. Bye.